Redneck teens with massive machines, everybody living beyond their means. Brotherly love from the messed up genes, nobody wants to intervene. The billboard screams you're advertising.
Hi again, I'm Dr. Anthony James, and I'm continuing the lecture series on my book, What is Thai Yoga? 49 Systems of Self-Expression and Healing. What is SomaVeda? 49 Systems of Self-Expression and Healing. We're on page 43. If you're just now coming into these lectures, then I want to recommend that you watch the previous 4 lectures. Otherwise, you're going to be lost a little bit. We're starting right here on page 43. And we covered last system number 41, a system of correcting and balancing PTSD on page 43. And I'm moving along to system number 42. SomaVeda is a system of Ayurveda Panchakarma. Panchakarma means the 5 cleansing actions. Panchakarma literally means the 5 cleansing actions, and first refers to removing the harmful residuals of both past life, both current past life and pre-incarnation. I'll try to explain that just a little bit here in a minute. We also take it to mean a 5-step protocol or program of detoxification and purging of harmful influences from the body, such as chemicals, residuals, and poisonous waste, toxins, pollutants, and perhaps various parasitical elements as well. Additionally, the Panchakarma treatment is invigorating and stimulating to the immune system and overall vigor and vitality for the whole person. It's relaxing, rejuvenating, nurturing, and spiritually uplifting. In fact, generally speaking, when people have Panchakarma, aside from some aspects that can be a little bit stressful for a short time, they come away with it with this idea that it is completely intrinsically uplifting, that they just feel younger. Although it is a SomaVeda Thai Yoga and classical Vedic healing practice with energetic and spiritual origins, it's perhaps also the ultimate origin of most Western spa-type treatments practiced today. Panchakarma is the original hygiene system, predating even Roman and Turkish baths, and predating them by as much as 1,000 to 2,000 years. So everything that you think of as a spa treatment, other than maybe an evolved or modern application, everything you think of that you might find in a med spa, originally was practiced in classical India and in classical Thailand as a medical treatment called Panchakarma. Now, within the context of these 5 cleansing actions, there are thousands of variations and idiosyncratic, peculiar adaptations that are done precisely to tweak the protocol to fit the needs of the individual and the needs of the individual diagnosis and the needs of the individual illness. So it's not really generic, because the whole idea of it is that you can change it, you can adapt it. You can change the herbs that are used, the oils that are used. You can change the procedure as far as step number 1 or step number 2. You can do more hot, or you can do more cool. You can do more internal cleansing versus external scrubbing and cleansing, depending on what is the outcome that you want to have with the person that you're working on. And in fact, if you do that, you'll have much better results over time. There are basically 5 individual steps or processes common to each Thai Yoga Panchakarma program. These are a bit more simple and condensed versions of the full-blown, lengthy, equipment-intensive Panchakarma we teach in India or Thailand in our Ayurvedic residential Panchakarma specialist programs, which we do have. Okay, so I can help you to go to India and learn and practice more Panchakarma at our affiliated hospitals. We now have 2 affiliated hospitals in India that specifically are dedicated to Panchakarma. But it's very equipment and very personnel intensive. They have large staffs, and they have the people who prepare the medicaments, the oils, the herbs, the minerals, the plants, people who wash and clean linens all day, people who work together as teams to apply different parts of the therapy. So it's quite intensive, and that's why we do it there. Although I will teach you a basic methodology of Panchakarma that you could actually do anywhere. Even in your own home. And most of the necessary equipment can actually be made at home, okay? The point is to emphasize the nature of the treatment and desired outcomes and create an accessible program for every client, or a program that every client can receive. The 5 basic steps that are common to our SomaVeda indigenous Thai yoga are A. Pemboran Raksa Tangnuat, or mat work, or it can also be on a table. A short general session, SomaVeda level 1 style short general session is perfect for this. Part B, Swedana or Swedana, steam or sweat. And there are several different ideas about how we can do this. It can be a steam session with aromatherapy element on the chair, and mostly emphasizing body, scalp, and facial. Steam session on the chair with aromatherapy. And the essential oils in the aromatherapy are chosen to be personal for the client that's being treated. In other words, what we like to do is actually muscle tests or use applied kinesiology to determine which of many oils or herbs that we could use in the treatment is best for that client on that day during that session. Okay? So it can be just on the chair, or it can be on the table. Okay, so there are different ways of applying steam to a table, and we have specialized canopies that we've made that actually are very, very suitable for this. I've got some older videos on YouTube that actually illustrate this, and as soon as we get our new, and you'll know it, technical ability to record live in the classroom, I'm going to be doing some demonstrations of the Panchakarma hands-on right in the classroom, so you can see how that goes. Part C, Kratop session, Nuat Prakop Samun Prai, the application and anointing with sacred herbs, exfoliating the body and body wash with herbs or minerals, and it can be wet or dry. There's many different herbs and literally every conceivable mineral that we could actually use, or mineral salt. Part D, Snehana, oleation session. Abhyanga is the first part. Anointing with single or multiple therapists. Abhyanga, or the oleation part of Panchakarma, is where we apply the aromatherapy oils very thoroughly, and quite often it's 2 or 3 therapists working at the same time. Then we do wraps and nasya, which is sesame oil nasal therapy, or massaging the inside of the nostrils with sesame oil. Shirodhara oil, or aromatherapy drip on the forehead, which is an extended treatment where herbs or medicated water or oils in a container, which is usually brass or ceramic, is dripped on the forehead gradually over a period of, it could be probably around 20 minutes. And quite often, like we have a setup where the medicants are recirculated automatically. In other words, the brass bowl that holds the medicants to drip on the forehead has a hose in it, and as it drips onto the forehead, it runs off, it's recaptured, and then it's recirculated back onto the client's forehead. Of course, we would only use this treatment for one person. We make the medications separately and especially for every person. We don't reuse them from person to person. A typical Panchakarma session can take from 1 to 2 hours, depending on how the different 5 parts are emphasized. Can be done as little as 1 hour if you're organized and you don't dilly-dally and just kind of move through the program and so on. And yes, just like I said a minute ago, you can do this at home. And we do demonstrate that, and we show that. At the bottom, we have system number 43, bottom of page 44. System number 43, SomaVeda, a system of healing and nurturing animals. This is one of my favorites. I have a dog, I have a cat. I use Thai yoga on my dog and on my cat all the time. I probably do some point work and some manipulation and some energy balancing, hands-on chirothesia type of work on my dog, Maggie, every day, every single day. And she benefits from this. She has old issues from her pre-rescue days at the pound, because she spent maybe a year or 2 or maybe even 3 years living in a cage before we got her. And we have completely rehabilitated her. She still has some issues, but part of her treatment strategy from day one has been working on her hands-on and energetically. And previous to this, we had a greyhound named Spooky, who we also worked on for over 6 years with great benefit. I've had students who did Thai yoga on horses, and I even had one student who was so successful doing Thai yoga on horses that she stopped working on people, and to this day exclusively works on horses. So it's up to you, but if you're into animals and you love animals and you want to see healthy animals, consider applying your SomaVeda for them. And with adjuncts like PEMF, for example, you can really pulse electromagnetic field therapy with the Thai yoga sessions. You can treat many disorders that animals have, especially inflammatory disorders, toxicity disorders, atrophy, arthritis, recovery, rehabilitation from injuries, like even in horse, like bowed tendon or whatever, tendon injuries, cartilage injuries, joint injuries. As soon as you bring in a little bit of the adjuncts, far infrared, pulse electromagnetic field therapy, very, very popular now with racehorses and other animals, plus the Thai point work and energy healing, they respond really, really well. And I say this every time it comes up. There's no placebo with the animals. They're not getting better when you do these protocols on them because they're trying to please you, or they think that you want them to show a response to make you look good. There is no placebo when you're working with animals. All right. Now, further down on page 45, we have system 44. SomaVeda is a system of brotherhood and sisterhood. A sangha, or men and women dedicated to practicing ahimsa dhamma, or the nonviolent acknowledgement of the sanctity of life in all living beings. This is as described in the Metta Sutra, which I teach in every level 1, and other philosophical and sacred texts, like the Bible, for example, to work for the betterment and reduction of suffering for all living beings. Thai Yoga provides a practical method for individuals working together to no longer participate in the origin cycle, the creation of suffering for ourselves and or for those around us. So our community is in singularity of conscious expression of our feelings and beliefs using concrete methodologies, provides a workable example of the way of right livelihood. We share a way, a path of living and working, which provides us with guidance, moral and ethical principles, as well as nurturing support and comfort. Within our Sangha, we share all of the divine, or at least noble principles of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity. So if you did SomaVeda for no other reason than as a practical expression of love, then that would be a valid way of right livelihood. Just forget all the other physical benefits. Forget the benefits of detoxification, of lymphatic movement and drainage, of range of motion, of alignment and energy balancing and dosha balancing and chakra balancing and point balancing. Just forget about all those things. Okay? If you just did it because it gives you an expression of ahimsa, of nonviolent way of being, unconditional love and kindness, practical expression of love, then that in and of itself is something you could sink your teeth in if you were so inclined. I have this always in the back of my mind. It is the primary outcome that I talk about when I talk about what are the primary outcomes of SomaVeda. It's Promivihansi, love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, and love being above all. System number 45. A system of differential diagnosis and indigenous Ayurvedic assessment. Well, we're a traditional Ayurveda system, and so we use traditional Vedic assessments and diagnosis techniques to direct, refine, specialize, and organize the way that we're going to bring energy, attention, consciousness, breath, and pressure to our clients to remediate specific illnesses and to engender and to create and support a sense of well-being, balance, and harmonious life, both within the body, within their family, within their job, within their community. Thai Yoga may be partially or entirely used as a systematic approach to assessing, qualifying, and determining both states of health or imbalance. Now, I want to say this. Our treatments themselves are assessments. In other words, we learn things by doing Thai Yoga that we can't get to any other way. No other medical system has this. In the big picture, we would qualify it. We'd say it's a form of palpation assessment, but it's far more than that. Since we use every part of us physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and intuitively to bring energy, attention, consciousness, breath, and pressure to the body, mind, and spirit of our client, we are subject to see anything and everything. So, for example, we also do the classic Vedic assessments. What kosha or energy body is the primary source of imbalance, because there are 5 bodies. What are the dominance or balance or imbalance of the gunas, sattvas, rajas, or tamas attributes, the 3 representations of infinite energy, male, female, and reconciling or child. Male or female indications such as yin or yang, inclination, it's a yin balance, it's a yang balance, imbalance. What dhatu or element or combination of elements, what organ of action, function or sense, what orifice is indicated. There's a classical Thai theory that correlates obvious imbalances that have to do with the orifices of the body with traditional diseases. And of course, recently we've been considering the fact that there's approximately 5 million skin pores or orifice on the endometrial system or the actual skin of the body, and that in fact things that invade or things that penetrate, even skin pores, has an effect on the body system. What dosha, vata, pitta, or kapha? We do take the pulse. We do the Vedic pulses, vata, pitta, and kapha. What sin line or energy line, prananadi, what chakra is indicated. You see the list right here. We do all of these. One of my favorites, of course, is the very last one, which is type of disruption of the body's energy system. So negative emotional patterns, i.e. fears, phobias, neurosis, compulsions, etc., or old unresolved negative emotional issues, or NEMOs, or so-called energy toxins, because in the absence of overt pathology, and you're still not right, it's probably an energy and or an emotional, psychological, toxic state, and we can treat that too, but we need to assess it first. Moving down on page 46, we come to system number 46. SomaVeda is a system of expression of religious freedom and free speech. I want to say right now, in this pandemic era, this idea of being able to express your religious freedom and free speech, however important it was 2 months ago, 3 months ago, it is far more important today. Far more important. And if you value this right of expression, and you value being able to express this right, you need to emphasize it. And you need to let people know. You need to speak up. You need to ask questions from authorities that try to tell you that when there's disease or when there is a pandemic or epidemic, that you no longer have a right to express your religious freedom, and you no longer have a right to express your free speech, because performing nuat is a form of speech. In other words, it is a communication. It is an artistic expression. You could even put it in a category in one way as it is an artistic expression or a performance art. This is an ancient art, a dancing meditation, not just quote-unquote medicine. It's certainly not just massage. It's really inappropriate to refer to this as massage, okay? Although we do have massage-like elements. But sharing this work provides a dynamic and ever-expanding vocabulary of expression of ideas and philosophies of what we believe is true and who we are or want to be in life. In other words, doing SomaVeda Nuat is sharing a vocabulary of expression of ideas and philosophies of what we believe is true and who we are or want to be in life. And guess what? You have a right to do that everywhere and in every situation, whether there's a pandemic or not. And you need to hold on to that thought. You need to hold on to that concept. Don't let anybody try to convince you that because they think that there's a medical emergency or a war or any other emergency that you don't have a right to express your religion. People express their religion in the middle of war zones and always have. People have always expressed their religious beliefs during epidemics and pandemics, and this is not the first one, and this will not be the last. It is a practical expression of loving kindness, and love by definition. So when is expressing love not appropriate? When is expressing love practically not appropriate? We believe that love manifests not as some mystical, ephemeral, intangible moral concept, but as a genuine life-affirming communication of care and consideration. How is this not helpful for sick people? Expressing genuine, life-affirming communication of care and consideration. Don't sick people need this more when they're sick than when they're well? Don't they we need it when we're well, but don't we need it more when we're sick? By its rationale of equally serving the giver as well as the receiver, it expresses organic, democratic, natural values, equally beneficial to individuals as to families, communities, and the greater world. I'll give you an example that I think somehow is appropriate. I actually did SomaVeda Thai Yoga in a professional hospice situation, AIDS hospice situation, where everybody in there, every patient in there was terminal with AIDS. They had varieties of infections from pneumonias to Kaposi sarcoma and cancers and candidiasis and all the things that terminal AIDS people have. And so when I would work there, I would wear a mask because they were immune compromised, and I did not want to contribute to them having more difficulty than they were already. I did not wear a mask so that it would keep me from catching AIDS, because you can't catch AIDS that way by breathing, okay? And where they had infections and where they had open wounds and where they had cancers, well, first of all, I wore gloves and I did not put pressure directly on compromised areas of their body. And then because these people were so critical in many cases with IVs and so on and so forth, I had assistants who would move the IV stands around me, move the catheters around me so that I would not dislodge an IV or I would not dislodge a catheter, okay? And if they were on a ventilator, then I was very careful working around the ventilator. But yes, I worked on ventilated, unconscious, catheterized, IV drip, terminal AIDS patients, hands-on in AIDS hospice. All of them didn't die. In fact, some of those patients did survive. And actually, years later, I've encountered them. Over the years, I've encountered them. And they've always told me that they were so grateful that someone was brave. I didn't think I was brave, but they said they were so grateful that someone was so brave to come into this terminal situation and bring them a practical expression of love, and that in fact they attributed their recovery to that and that kind of energy. And here we are in a pandemic, and we're actually told that you can't even go say goodbye to your grandma who's dying in the hospital because it's so contagious, or that you might cause her harm. Well, if she's terminal, you're not going to cause her harm by going into her room and expressing love and compassion. That's ridiculous. The Puja Vaikru and Yoga Vinyasa, or forms, traditional forms that we do, provides health and healing exchange of core values between all persons engaged in its practice. Good for me, good for you. Good for you, good for me. That's a criteria in our traditional medicine. Wow, wouldn't that be different if that criteria, to any degree, was applied to Western medical practice? That one of the caveats or conditions of the practice of that medicine was that it had to be as good for the giver as it is for the receiver, and vice versa. The world is a better place because this work exists, and would be less so without it. Think about it. Think it through. It is a sure cure, an antidote for pain and suffering, whether of psychic, spiritual, emotional, or physical, or environmental in origin. And we can prove that. And that has been proven. First of all, proven anecdotally by over 1 billion people receiving treatments for over 1,000 years, and still preferring it as a primary medicine to the present day. So we got that going for us. And then starting in the 17, 18, and 1900s and continuing right to the present day, we have scientists, investigators, researchers, clinicians, and doctors who've actually been doing more what we would call empirical studies and scientific research into the benefits of Thai yoga and Thai yoga-like therapies. And now I have hundreds of clinical studies, scientific studies, and investigations into one aspect or another of our practice, proving clinically, scientifically, statistically, empirically that there's a benefit. But even if there wasn't, this is an important thing. If the only benefit was the healing exchange of core values as a religious expression, as a religious therapeutic, that would be valid. And you can do this as a ministry, and this is your ministry, and you don't have to be embarrassed, shy, backward, or bashful about it, that what you're offering as a counseling service, as a therapeutic ministry, is in fact SomaVeda Thai Yoga. This work expresses perfectly the aspirations and admonitions not only of the historical Buddha, which we have the Buddha on record talking about how valuable this work was, but of all genuine saints and sages who, out of obligation to their religious expression, have contributed to our practices. We join this contemplative community by using every faculty of mind, body, and spirit to speak, counsel, and express our beliefs with freedom of expression. For example, I like to talk about sometimes as a Christian minister that I have as a practical expression of my life ambition to be more like Jesus. And what I mean by that, I mean lots of things, but one of the things I mean by that, okay, is that I believe the expression, and I believe the historical, whether you want to say it's a fact or a myth, that Jesus was a healer. And I believe that if Jesus was a healer, being that he was Jesus, he was probably a pretty good one. And if he was a pretty good one, he probably was educated. And he probably had a diversity of therapeutic applications. And of course, we know this to be true because he used medicated waters, medicated wines, herbs, and chirothesia, or the divine expression of hands-on energy. And he used non-local energy and as in pure energetic healing based on prayers and affirmations and acknowledgments and so on and so forth. He used every available tool available to him, appropriate at the time he was needing to do so, to bring healing to whoever was within his circle, within his proximity. And he then exhorted his disciples to be like him. Not only that, be greater than him, accomplish more than him. I take that literally. And as a doctor, as a therapist, as a physician, as a practitioner, as a minister, as a counselor, as a healer, that is actually, in my mind, what I'm endeavoring to do. And I have a right to do that. That is my freedom of expression. My actions are a form of speech and communication, so my freedom of speech. I have a right to associate with other people, like-minded people, no matter what. Corona, no corona. These rights don't go away out of expediency. I want to say this, even unto death. Do you have any idea how many people have died, literally sacrificed their life, so you could have the right of religious expression? So you could have the right of free speech? So you could have the right to craft a life based on spiritual principles alone? Do you have any idea how many people, just in our country, just in the U.S., it's millions. Page 47. Number 47, System 47. SomaVeda is a system of chakra-based Khorasan astrology. Chakra-based Khorasan astrology. Khorasan is a form of Jyotish astrology, classical Indian Ayurveda astrology, which is practiced pretty much exclusively in Thailand. I was very privileged to learn Khorasan astrology from various teachers. Ajahn John, probably one of my first, Pakru, Mo Anantasuk, Achan Nantipa Anantasuk, and others. And basically it's the idea, it's 52 correlations for each of the 7 primary chakras, and each chakra has both a traditional planetary as well as a numerological association, which is cyclical in nature. It's based on the theory that each primary chakra and planet rules or creates an overriding influence for a period of 7 years, divided into 7 smaller yearly cycles. And this is discussed in the book. Well, it says lines, wheels, points, and remedies, but that has been replaced by Ayurveda of Thailand and religious therapeutics and the Khorasan astrology book. And so the idea is that there's a secondary system of chakra body types and chakra personality types. And the chakra body types support the differentiation of the Vedic doshas of Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Everybody in class gets a poster. Everybody in class gets the chakra astrology book, which has the charts of the correlations and gives you a psychological, mental, and also physical aspect of reading a person in a different way. Now, I know some people have a problem with astrology in general. I don't, but I know some people do. You may have heard bad things about astrology, that it's an occult thing or what. Actually, we don't look at it that way. The fact that we are in an astrological realm, or realm of life influenced by astronomical factors, the sun, moon, and planets, their gravitational wells, their electromagnetic fields, their fields of plasma, light energy, and photonic energy, and magnetic energy, and so on and so forth, and that our life is dependent on it. The ancients tracked these things very closely and realized that these solar relationships influenced every part of us, influenced our health. The simplest example I can tell you of astrology is moon cycles or lunar cycles. 13 moons a year. 13 times a year we have a peak. 13 times a year we have a valley. And these peaks and valleys affect our fluid and water metabolism. They affect way more than that, but they at least affect that. And as the fluid pressure and inclinations of circulation, inflammation versus circulation, change in reflection of the lunar cycles, it has other effects on our hormones, on our chemistry, and on our mindset. And in fact, in extreme cases, someone who is severely affected by this, we call them a lunartic, or for short, a lunatic, a crazy person. We correlate lunar cycles with menstruation in all animals, including people. This is the basis, the true basis of astrology. So we do use and we do teach the traditional Thai astrology. Okay, still on page 47, moving down, system number 48, a system of Tantra. Now, often misunderstood by many, Tantra is a classic Indian, Indo-Aryan Sanskrit word literally meaning expansion through awareness, and that's the way I mean it. It includes teachings and practices that use energy to lead to a high state of enlightenment and blissful existence. Ayurveda, as an indigenous religious therapeutic healing science, also incorporates the ancient tantric text and commentaries. Now, also, Tantra means book. So it's books, which is another form of codification of teachings, dogma and teachings, which focus on various practices that emphasize expanding consciousness through paying attention. In other words, expansion of consciousness through awareness. So SomaVeda Thai Yoga can be a spiritual path that uses all of the sense faculties, breath sounds, mantras, movements, asanas, various symbols, geometries, sacred geometries, to bring peace and quiet to the mind and to activate sexual energy or Kundalini Shakti. In Ayurveda, Kundalini Shakti is considered the fundamental prana of life. You cannot live for 1 minute without it. So don't get all pervy when you hear sexual energy. Air is sexual energy. Breath is sexual energy. Consciousness is an expression of sexual energy. Fundamentally, we were created through sex between mother and father. The very act of fundamental procreation and creation of our very being is an expression of sexual energy. And just because we're born does not mean that we are no longer ruled by sexual energy. I want to reference here also a Western author, Wilhelm Reich, who wrote extensively about orgasm, sexual energy, and the role of sexual repression, and so on, and in everything from mental illness, psychopathies, and fascism. Okay, so Wilhelm Reich I want to recommend, because we're very influenced. We are strongly influenced in our psychological philosophy by Wilhelm Reich. So our practices are tantric practices, which are also Taoist practices. They're influences of Taoist Chinese in Thai Yoga. These practices are pranayama, asana, vinyasa, visualization, vipassana, or mindfulness, coupled with sensitive, loving, and sensual touch. Can also help with healing past trauma and emotional energies, injuries which are stored in the sexual centers or chakra of the body. By opening the chakra and sen, or nadis of the body, it's possible to be more fully available and in the moment with your expression of love and expression of your true sexual nature. In other words, appropriate expression of sexual nature. How is this not good? How is this not good for everyone? When practiced with a consenting or willing partner, the atmosphere and connections created can bring about powerful flows of connection and energy. These empower you to expand your love for one another and for all living beings. So, do I do Thai Yoga on my wife or with my wife? And the answer is absolutely. Yes. And not to just fix things. Sometimes I do Thai Yoga on my wife just because I love her and I want to practically express that love. And this is a concrete, proven, and appropriate way to do that. But it is with strangers too, see? Where is the practical expression of unconditional love and kindness not appropriate? Okay? Please don't confuse the appropriate expression of nurturing, compassion, love, and care, and consideration, and medicine, and therapy with sexual predation. There are predators, and there are issues, and those issues need to be worked through. Okay, number 49. SomaVeda is a system of all that there is. 49. Why 49? Why not 59? Why not 109? 49 is a metaphor for all of the novel possible expressions of this most generous and creatively expressed art and science. 49 is expression without limitation. Indigenous traditional natural medicine as an expression of religious therapeutics is an elegant and rich source for healing methodologies. It's a deep well. We stand on the shoulders of giants with the sophistication and practicality of what our elders have given us. However, we were given the mandate to make sure our traditional medicine is appropriate, both for the people we minister to and for the environment in which we and they live. Environment does not just mean natural surroundings, as it encompasses the entirety of the life expression and those surrounding forces which may contribute to separating us from our true nature, our sublime and self-realized consciousness. Modern science and clinical research open the possibilities of other and additional systematic ways to use or emphasize ITTM. Research articles on research on ITTM may be found at ThaiMassage.com, but also at SomaVeda.org and also at ThaiYogaCenter.com. This means we're not done. We're developing new and innovative protocols and ministry therapeutics which are cogent with our sacred beliefs and appropriate for the modern conditions of life and society. What kind of a healing system is SomaVeda to you, I want to ask. SomaVeda to me is my doctor's bag. When I'm confronted with someone who's not well or a situation that needs energy, that needs love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, that needs detoxification, that needs an increase in circulation, a reduction in inflammation, that needs help with suffering, with pain, I dig into my SomaVeda doctor's bag and I can find a way to help that person. I can find a way to help a person in every situation, including the current pandemic. Yes, our work specifically is highly effective in helping to resolve the pre- and comorbidities that cause patients who are susceptible to more severe cases to not have those severe outcomes or to recover faster. And when they're combined with rational medicine, the use of non-toxic, least toxic chemical pharmaceuticals that are antiviral, the use of high-dose vitamin C, D, K, the use of other oxygenation therapies, oxygen saturation therapies other than ventilators. Plus what we do, we can reduce the symptoms of everything. We can reduce the symptoms of the worst, the diabetes, the heart disease, and the cancer. I've already talked about cancer before, for example. So we can handle most of the pre- and comorbidities, and only the most severely affected people should then have to rely on the conventional medical system. There's no reason why someone who is not at severe high risk, who's already failed to take care of themselves and have already been injured by harmful medicine or malpractice or misprescriptions of drugs and so on and so forth, those are the only people who should be in the critical care. Everybody else should be coming to see us, to see you. How do you frame your SomaVeda? I want you to be creative, and if you have questions, and if you have, you want to brainstorm and run something by me, I am so happy to help you do that. Okay? So, what SomaVeda integrated traditional therapies, indigenous traditional Thai yoga is not. Okay? What it is not. It is not massage or massage therapy. Those terms, massage and massage therapy, have become legally defined, prejudicially I might say so, as basically rubbing on the public for money. And actually, most of the massage laws, almost, in fact, everyone that I've looked at, literally defines massage and massage therapy as rubbing on the public for money. And it also says that rubbing on the public for money is apparently really, really dangerous. SomaVeda, integrated traditional therapies, Thai yoga, is not dangerous at all. No one has ever died. No one has ever been killed by us. We're not those people. We're not the people who do some form of therapy that have some acceptable margin of iatrogenic morbidity, or, the occasional patients that we kill. Okay? We don't have that. That's not us. But legally, massage and massage therapy, which is under medical boards in every state where there is such a law, is defined as a dangerous practice of rubbing on people for money. And whether that rubbing has terms like gliding, stroking, kneading, pressing, percussion, etc. And the worst part about it is Swedish massage, which is the origin of the massage therapy industry, originated with us. Even in their history books, Per Heinrich Ling of Stockholm, around the turn of the century, founder of Swedish massage and the Swedish Institute of Therapeutic Gymnastics, did so after going to Southeast Asia and Thailand and seeing what the therapists there were doing. But because he was a Western guy and a tourist, he didn't actually understand that he was looking at Ayurveda. He didn't understand that there were energetic, philosophical considerations that are more than just the visual appearance of touching people. He did not understand that, and therefore he took what he saw and what he could see, and he created this idea of Swedish massage from it, Swedish gymnastics. And without everything else, that is what makes it important. He didn't understand that it was a religious therapeutic. He didn't understand that it was based on universal energetic principles. He didn't understand that it was a code of conduct of moral and ethical responsibility. He didn't understand that it was nutritional. He didn't understand. But God bless him. He did a lot with what he did, with what he had. But just like telephone game, the modern massage bears no resemblance. So, yes, you can do SomaVeda as a massage therapist. You can integrate it into your practice, and you will be more famous, more successful, and make more money if you do so. However, just because we let massage people in our classes doesn't mean that what we're doing is massage or massage therapy. That's fuzzy thinking, that's soft thinking, that's wrong thinking. And actually, we 100% oppose that. SomaVeda is not based on manipulation and never was historically. It's a religious therapeutic based on indigenous Ayurveda, Buddhist medicine, and other indigenous traditional medicine practices addressing suffering caused by separation from the knowledge and the relationship of God and Spirit. And it's a sad thing that more people don't know this. I'll say this one more time just for emphasis. Just because there are those who, for whatever reason, decide to practice elements of our religious therapies for other reasons does not mean that we do not have the right and obligation to continue our traditional practices. Just because the non-religious choose to use the traditional names for what we do does not deprive us, the indigenous and traditional religious practitioners, of the right to practice our faith and the expressions of our faith as they have been responsibly passed down to us by our elders. And myself, from my elders to me, and from me to you. We have a right to do what we do as a religious therapeutic, and we're going to claim that right, and we're going to keep claiming it until the cows come home. All right, let's see if there's anything else that I want to say here before I bow out. And actually, we're here at page 53. And that's it. So God bless. Last thing I want to say is ITTM, Indigenous Thai Traditional Medicine, as a spiritually based system of religious healing, religious therapeutics, chirothesia, and somatic therapy in which the healer, practitioner, therapist, or doctor literally becomes the extension of sacred divine intention and manifestation. It is a direct and literal, practical expression of loving kindness and compassion, reducing suffering, bringing wellness and happiness to all who are touched by it. The fact of its apparent sophistication, its elegance, its efficiency, its power, and vitality does not make it merely or simply a system of mechanical manipulation. But within the context of this expression, you have permission and you have the authority in your practice to frame this work any way you can that will help you help others help themselves. And never be afraid to experiment. But I want to say this, there's more to learn, and I invite you to come to class, move on to full-on CTP1, ALC, Ayurvedic Lifestyle Counselor, Ayurveda Health Counselor, Yoga Therapist, Thai Yoga Teacher, or even better, join our college at SomaVeda College of Natural Medicine, details at somaveda.org, and get a college degree based on these principles that I've been explaining in this course. Doctor of Arts in Traditional and Indigenous Medicine, Doctor of Sacred Natural Medicine, specializing in Ayurveda, Doctor of Ayurveda Medicine, PhD. I invite you to join the college and become an expert, become a source person. Don't stop here. Don't just stop with superficial, oh, I can have a sports focus. Well, how about have a sports focus as a physician, as a graduate of our College of Natural Medicine, as a doctor? How about that? Let me help you do that. Until then, Kapkumakap, Sawadee Kap, Papka Mai Kap. I will see you in class.
Under the wheels of your massive RV. All of these things I've come to accept, the quick and the slow.